So I think it's really cool that Tegan T/Mo, the voice of Athena from Epic the Musical, and Meadow, who's the captain of the Optox ship, are doing this. I think it's really cool that this indie content creator is showing you where everything is going, where the money that you're using to support them is going, stuff like that. But I left this comment because, yes, I did work in booking this year. I helped run a convention, and one of the big things that I did was I contacted people for potential guests. I did the negotiations with about 95%, with 95% of them. There's only one who I wasn't privy to because that negotiation took 5 seconds. He was like, "It's $600 for 3 hours. We're gonna do it for 2 days." I was like, "Okay, 6 hours, $1,200." And he was like, "That's the standard fee." And I was like, "Okay, cool." But there were independent people, independent artists, and artists that were signed to an agency. The artists that were signed to the agency cost a little bit more, and they negotiated some different things. One of the things that they always remember to do when they're with an agency is ask for a booth where you can do signings and sell merch or sell prints and stuff like that. Always make sure that you do that. Another thing that indie artists should do is if they're booked is make sure that they get the chance to actually go ahead and take an opportunity to get a per diem. Now, because of the way that the convention I worked at on net 30 terms, where we couldn't pay somebody in cash, what happened was that per diem was the person's one of the talents per diems was supposed to be $100 per day, and it was 3 days, so $300. And I was like, "Listen, we'll increase that by $30 a day. And since it's 3 days, why don't we just go ahead and call it $100 extra? We'll make your per diem a total of 400. We'll add that to your fee." Another thing is talking about reimbursement for travel costs. If somebody reaches out to you and says, "I want you to perform at this venue," you can say, "Well, my travel cost is this much for the plane, this much for the gas, this much for the hotel. Are you going to pay for it and book me at a hotel, or are you going to go ahead and take me and have me go and book it myself and reimburse me?" I would recommend having them reimburse you because you can actually have them reimburse you for slightly more, because we will usually pay you a little bit more for you doing that and us not having to deal with the inconvenience of it. A lot of times, talent that doesn't have an agent will go ahead and ask for less money than what they're even worth. There have been times when talent would be like, "Yeah, one of the talent that I talked to was really excited, wanted to do the show, wanted to do everything." And she was like, we were like, "Do you have any other questions for she was like, "Do we have any other questions for me?" And I said, "Yeah, I think we're forgetting the really big one." And she was like, "What?" And everybody else in the meeting was like, "What?" And I was like, "How much do you want to be paid?" Make sure you actually ask how much you're going to be paid. And we settled on a number that worked out for both of us, and it worked. But make sure you actually ask that. Another thing I highly, highly recommend for indie creators is network with people who work in booking. Because maybe, even without an agent, you can talk to somebody who does booking, and maybe they have contacts with agents. They have contacts with other people who do booking. I have contacts with some people in the industry who do bookings, and I'm actually going to be at a convention later this year. Not as a paid guest. I chose to do this as just a panelist because it's a first-year convention that I really believe in. And I think that it's going to be something that's going to be really cool later on this year in Niagara Falls. But I know the people running it because I've worked with them through just them being at my convention with a table and stuff like that. But the absolute worst thing you can do as an indie artist is just sign to a big agency because, yes, you'll have less financial risk. But if you don't own all of the things to your name, image, and likeness, it can get problematic and lots of bad things can happen. Sign to a small-time agency. Sign to an agency where maybe you make a little bit less money, but you maintain your name, image, and likeness, and you can sell things, you can do YouTube stuff, all those things.